It's an economic bright spot in New Mexico's ailing economy. That's the oil and gas boom. Production has climbed in recent years, and those revenues now make up nearly 1/3 of the state's income. But some of those techniques that have opened up more discoveries, like hydraulic fracturing, are also raising environmental concerns in certain communities. In response, the New Mexico Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources Department is putting together a team of experts and scientists to help local leaders respond to these concerns. It's also holding a statewide session to collect public input. And Laura, first up on these responses. I should add in as well that New Mexico Tech is in this as well, and they're going to be helping these communities, which is very interesting to me. What's going on here? Is this reaction by this department something that reacting to the public concern, just the normal course of business? Something seems a little extra here to me. What do you think is going on?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think it's important to note that they're doing this proactively. I think it's an important step forward and the right sort of thing to do when there's so much concern in different parts of the state about the practices. I think for a long time, you know, this isn't the actual practice of hydraulic fracturing isn't necessarily new. What's new and I think different is the frequency of it that's occurring recently. I think there's more of an urgency to try to take advantage of that method. As opposed to traditional extraction methods for a variety of reasons. So I think what's happening, though, that we've seen in recent years is certain local communities have used their own local city councils, county governments to try to limit the ability of these oil and gas companies to come in and do hydraulic fracturing. So we saw something like that in Mora County, for example. And I think that that's now being challenged in court. So it's become the sort of issue that I think Energy and Minerals is correct to start to proactively get more input from the technicians, people who are scientists and actual members of the industry, as well as the public, to try to have more of these stakeholder meetings.
Sure. And those meetings, by the way, Sophie, the listening sessions going on as well. That's interesting. I mean, you're opening yourself up to a lot of
you are opening yourself up to a lot of things, but I think fear of opening yourself up to those things is actually what leads to kind of what we were discussing before with APD. It's kind of a bunker mentality in which industry says, we don't want to hear it, and the community says, we don't feel we're being heard. And so I think that that's an important element. What remains to be seen in all of this, of course, is how that information is used. If it feels to the community like we spoke, we thought you heard, and then nothing came out of that, that's almost as bad as you didn't bother to listen to it, and perhaps even worse. And so I think that the agency is going to need to find ways to really integrate what they've heard into the policies that they support in the future.
Interesting, Harry, just a couple nights ago in the PBS NewsHour, they brought up the Cortland Air Force spill. So there are things that need addressing here, and all kinds of environmental things, like a big map of the state that needs addressing. But again, positive from your point of view that the department's taking this task?
Positive from my point of view, but there seems to be a mismatch here. So we all know that oil and gas is so incredibly important to the state in terms of the budget, in terms of all sorts of other things, in terms of jobs. But if you're living in a local community, what do you care about? You're less concerned about the state as a whole and more concerned about what's going on in your local community. And to go to Sophie's point, so if you have, say, community consultation, but it's just a monologue, and what comes out of it is information you can't understand and nothing where you really have genuine input, that's actually worse than not asking people at all. And so it does tie, in some sense, back to where we started with the APD in terms of a lack of trust. So things that are used in fracking, for example, are not public knowledge. And so if I were living in one of these communities, I would be very concerned about what is being pumped into the groundwater, particularly given that we live in a water-stressed state.
That's right. We're under a minute, Senator. It's interesting thinking about the footage we've all seen, people turning on their faucets, lighting, water on fire, the whole thing. People are naturally concerned. Again, positive from your point of view,
absolutely.
Or could they be doing something better than this in your view?
Well, we need the facts. There's a lot of misinformation around fracking. If you're a city, county, state official, federal official, you need the facts. So we're making an effort right now to get to the bottom of what's real and what's not regarding fracking. And as was mentioned, I mean, fracking has to do with royalties. It has to do with state budget. It has to do with jobs. It has to do with energy, reliance on foreign energy. I mean, there's so many different pieces tied into this whole issue of fracking. So, starting point, get the facts. Let's make it science-based, and
Sure.
let's give that information to officials so that they can make the right decision.
That
You need
sounds
to know both sides of the story.
Absolutely. Thank you all for being here. We're going to do some on clocks on the web, so sit tight. As always, all of us here at New Mexico in Focus appreciate your time and your effort to stay informed and engaged. Catch up with us anytime on social media by searching New Mexico in Focus, and you can find archived interviews and lots of bonus material from our show on our YouTube channel and at newmexicoinfocus.org. I'm Gene Grant. We'll see you next week in Focus.